Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure for us in another episode of the Tennis Talk Coaches' Voices to have a great coach, a great leader, and also a great person is with us, Michael Russell. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Fernando. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to be with us. You are a high-performing person. You are a very successful coach. And this is the Coaches' Voices episode, which is to create a bridge to bring awareness and more understanding to people about what it takes to be a high-performing person. To introduce a little bit about Michael, Michael was a former ATP player, was a number 60 in singles ranking. He won 15 challengers. He was a very great competitor. Also, he is an ATP coach, and he is actually the coach of Taylor Fritz. He had a wonderful year, plenty of successful achievement, winning tournaments, reaching semifinals and the master quarterfinals and grand slams and many, many others great results. Thank you, Michael. Tough work, a great year, and thank you to be with us.
No, it's my pleasure. Yeah, it's been a phenomenal year for Taylor and for all of us. You know, we've started the year, he was ranked around 23 and finishing the year ranked 9. And as you said, Fernando, I mean, quarterfinals of Wimbledon, Indian Wells champion, Tokyo, the 500 champion, and then to top off the year, sneaking into the Masters final and then making the semifinal. So it was just, yeah, really, really fantastic 2022.
Yeah. Before to do the first question, it's very important to remark that the results. Why? Because also Taylor was able to maintain results, not only one period of the year, was all the year having a very good competitive average, which is, we know that is very difficult for tennis players. Huh?
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, you know, especially winning that Indian Wells title early in the year, then you have that target, you start to have that expectation that, oh, wait, I should be winning more titles, but easier said than done. So it's, you know, to keep that mentality and that confidence and success, you know, it was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know Taylor, he has the potential and also the personality, but also he needs the environment and he needs the guidance that you are providing. No? Let me ask you the first question, because like I said before, this is about what it takes to be a high performing person. No, but we need to know more about the person. The first question is, in your own words, who is Michael Russell?
Yeah, so Michael Russell is a very passionate, you could say a little bit of obsessive compulsive personality. I love to work out when I'm not on court helping people. I'm married. My wife is a former fitness competitor. So between the two of us, you know, we're always in the gym and everybody's always laughing with us about how much we're always working out. But as far as from a tennis standpoint, I grew up in a tennis family. Both my parents played tennis. My father played collegiately. I played multiple sports growing up, soccer, tennis, and baseball, but I just really gravitated towards tennis. I love that one-on-one aspect of tennis, you know, kind of like the gladiator feeling where it's just, you know, it's all about you on the court, win or lose. And, you know, I just had a passion. I played good junior tennis, played college at the University of Miami, Florida, and then went on to play professionally for 17 years on tour, which is a long time. And then went into coaching basically right away. I retired in 2015 and started coaching privately in Houston, which I still do. But then I also started coaching on tour with the U.S. Player Development, USTA, with the Federation. And then now I'm privately coaching Taylor Fritz, as you mentioned. But, you know, it's hard to sum up who I am in a few minutes. But, you know, I'm like I said before, I'm very passionate about tennis. I'm very analytical. I love helping people. And then away from the tennis court, you know, I love nature. I like to hang out if we have the ocean nearby. It's very calm and tranquil, and the fitness aspect, which I already alluded to. Like my wife and I, we love to work out, and it just makes us feel good.
Yeah, wonderful. Always is difficult to describe by your own words, no, because it's not a typical question in tennis. But anyway,
yeah,
that's part of our project. No.
Yeah, it's fun.
let me ask you, Michael. How was the process? No, because you were a very good player and also a long time on the circuit. That immediately, I think you started to coach Ryan Harrison. Immediately after to be a player. How was that process? To be a player to become a tennis coach.
Yeah, it's a complete 180. So when you're playing, it's all about you, which it should be. As the player, you want to make sure that everything in your power is making sure that you're comfortable on court and your mindset is there to be as successful as you can be. Then as a coach, it's all about the player. So you're still making sure that the player is in the best frame of mind, the practices are set up, the strategy is there, the fitness, you're organizing everything. So there's a lot of roles as a coach that you have to undertake, but you're completely selfless, whereas the player, it's all about being selfish. So when I stopped playing in 2015, then the actual first pro that I started coaching was Francis Tiafoe.
Oh yeah.
And then from Francis, this is through the federation, then I started coaching Ryan Harrison, then Mackenzie McDonald, then Tennis Sangren. And then after tennis, I worked with Taylor a little bit during that time. And then that morphed into coaching Taylor privately full-time now.
Yeah. And how was the process? How many, when you are also like a player, no? When you are from junior to be a player and to 100 player, which is an objective to any top player, but also like a coach. How many, let's say, difficulties, but you face it, no? Like opportunities to keep growing, but how was the process?
Yes, of course. It's, like anything, when I was playing, I was, very diligent with all my preparation. I wanted to make sure that everything that I could control, I did it 100%, whether that's the fitness, having, the equipment ready as far as nutrition, and that also carries over to coaching. So for the coaching aspect, I always make sure I watch a lot of video. I make sure the communication aspect is there between myself and the player. Every player is unique, so you have to understand the player. The communication channels are different. Everybody has different personalities. So it's finding that balance between the coach and the player, and then making sure that the communication is direct. And when you only have a few minutes, because sometimes you only have a few minutes, that what you're saying is very impactful, and that the player understands and absorbs that information. And as far as opportunities from coaching after being a player, it's really about getting out there, getting the experiences, continuing to further your education. I'm always trying to watch seminars, and I had some great coaches when I was playing, growing up, from Ronnie Harmon to Jose Higueras to even Ola Monkfist, a lot of great coaches through the years, Peter Lundgren, and learning from them, and then also having my own unique philosophy just from the experiences of playing so many years through so many decades of playing different players. Yeah.
And what it takes to be your best version, which are the key aspects that let's talk about yourself, no? In your own process. How was to find yourself and to say, okay, I'm ready to fight to do anyone, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of my personality. When I played, my strength was my fitness and my speed and my return to serve. Being not as tall as the average tennis player,
Mm-hmm.
which is about 6'2". I'm 5'8", so I really had to maximize my strength and my size, but also the mindset. You know, every time I walked on court, I really did think that I could win a match. You know, regardless of who I was playing, whether it was, you know, playing Federer at the French Open or Nadal at Wimbledon. Even though I didn't win the matches, I still had the mindset when I walk on court that I can compete with anyone. And it's still the same mentality from a coaching aspect. You know, when you start analyzing the videos and you talk to the player, you know, you have to make them believe that they're the best player on the court, no matter who they're playing. And a lot of the players do have that confidence, but sometimes, you know, they don't really believe that. I mean, Taylor is very confident, which is great. You know, he's self-confident individual, really believes in himself and his shot making ability, but you still have to continue to encourage them to have that belief, especially in pressure moments. You know, really step up and play the way that they need to play, and that's the only way to be successful at the highest level.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think about your principles, about your coaching concepts? No, what you are looking for when you are working with the player. But let's talk about what you are the key factors for you like a coach.
I mean, for me, the key factors, communication is number one. There has to be an open channel between the player and the coach, and there has to be that comfort level where the coach can say anything, the player can say anything, and you shouldn't have to hold back anything. So transparency is number one, because that's the only way we can progress.
Yeah.
After the communication, then of course there has to be a respect factor. You know, the player has to respect the coach, has to be able to listen, be willing to listen, be willing to absorb the information. And back to the communication, I think it's important that the player also asks questions. You know, doesn't just take all the information as if I'm saying everything that's correct and I have to do it. So I actually appreciate, and Taylor's very inquisitive, where, you know, he might question something that I suggest, or whether it's in the gym or on court. And that way you have a healthy dialogue, and then you both understand going forward, that's the best way to do it. You know, and Taylor's very smart. He's very analytical on court and off court. So that's why it works well for us. There's a good balance. But, you know, I think having communication, having the respect, and then also I think it's important to have information, you know, especially right now with all the AI that we have. You know, we have a lot of data at our fingertips, which is important too. So we can use that data to help, you know, improve our time, our positioning on court, you know, whether that's through understanding the dynamic of an opponent, you know, maybe on getting a little few insights of where they like to serve, or where they like to hit on pressure points, but then also helping, you know, Taylor improve in certain aspects of his game, because you have that data, which, you know, can show percentages, can show positioning on court, winning and losing points a certain way. So, you know, using all those metrics and keys, you know, makes for a good coach and makes for a good player-coach relationship.
Yeah. And talking about data, because data analytics, probably, of course, you are in the top right now. Taylor is top 9 in the world. You know, and in that level, also you have a lot of information, data analytics, but probably for the future, in the next 10 years in tennis, from junior coaches, national coaches level, will be more and more information about analytics. You are looking more the information about the opponent's tendencies, about your partner of play or your player, or both informations?
Yeah, I mean, I really look for both. And, you know, it's really being nice having matches available now. You know, even when I was earlier on in my career, when I was playing, you know, you couldn't just click on YouTube and find a match. You know, it was very difficult. But now we have, you know, we have Tennis TV, we have all these outlets where you can watch matches, Dartfish. So it really helps. So usually what I do, you know, I'll look at video from Taylor's prior matches, with that specific opponent to see if there's any tendencies that the opponent did against Taylor. Then I'll look at his opponent's matches in that specific tournament, because every tournament has different conditions. So there's different balls, different court speeds, and players might serve differently depending on the conditions. Certain shots might be more effective. And then I'll also look at what's working well for Taylor in those conditions. So it's it's kind of trifold, looking at all the data and then putting it together. And then you also have to be careful that you don't have analysis paralysis, where there's so much data,
too much information,
that the player all of a sudden starts getting too confused. So it's just picking out some key points, speaking with Taylor about it, we agree on it, and then he can go and just have the confidence that there's those few key points that he can focus on. Yeah,
that's one very important insight you say, because sometimes people can believe that the technology or data is enough. No, it's only a tool.
It's exactly.
Michael, let me ask you about, because I know that you were a fighter, you're a warrior, like a player, and also like a coach, put in a lot of passion, intensity. Let's talk a little bit about the human values you are looking on the player. You did respond a little bit about transparency, honesty, respect, which are, from your point of view, which are the key values, not only like a coach, also like a player relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have, as you said, the respect. It's important to have the warrior type mentality. Taylor's great. He's one of the best competitors I've seen, on court. He literally will, I mean, knocking on wood, but he'll have an injury and he'll somehow, try to continue to still play the point no matter what. Really doesn't want to give his opponent any satisfaction for beating him. I think it's also important to have empathy. That's very important. Understanding how other people feel, other people think in certain situations. And then it's also important from a coach's standpoint also to be strict when it's necessary. Because I've had to do that a few times. Sometimes Taylor doesn't always gravitate towards sometimes the fitness aspect, or, there's days where, you just don't feel great. So the practice won't be as intense, and you got to make sure that you keep getting on them and keep focusing on something to be positive, and be strict where the practice is positive and you still improve on something. If not, because, I look at it as a graph, and, it always going to go a little bit up and down, but as long as we're continuing to progress upwards a little bit, like a staircase, that's our main goal. And you don't want to have too many days where you're going down, whether that's from fatigue or an injury that you can't control. So always looking at trying to progress a little bit each day, whether that's from a mental standpoint, whether that's working on the physical standpoint, or whether that's working on something technically.
Yeah, you require a lot of will, no, to be hungry to do that, no, like a player and also like a coach. Because also, like in your case, Michael, you are like a director of the orchestra. It's not only you, no, it's used to be in the past. No, right now you have a lot of people around the player, no?
Yes, yeah. I mean, so there's a whole managerial side. Taylor has a physio, great physio. We have an agent, we have a consultant, and then we have, Taylor himself. So managing all those roles day in and day out. We're traveling almost 35 weeks a year, which is a lot. So you're on the road quite a bit. And then even when you're not traveling, you're still in constant communication, organizing practices if I'm not there. I live in Houston, Taylor lives in Miami and Los Angeles. So organizing those practices, and then always talking about the schedule and different tournaments and things to work on. So it's a 24/7, 365 day, occupation.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it takes to be a high performing person. No, it's like full commitment.
Like I mean, to be successful, you have to work hard at it. And the harder you work at it, the more successful you will be sometimes. So
yeah. Let me ask you, this is about coaches, because we have a lot of coaches in the audience from all over the world, because the tennis one, you can reach the program for everywhere and your phone. What do you think is a key aspect to be a coach? Because we have on the audience coaches which are working on the grassroots level, formative phases, and also in some cases, coaches which are working in national level and juniors on some professionals. What do you think is a key factor to be a coach? What do you recommend to them if you have to say something?
yeah, I mean, it's a all-encompassing position. I think it's important. You need to have several traits. One is knowledge, whether that's from playing, whether that's from getting experience and knowledge through seminars, through mentors, through more education. Then it's important to have patience. Whether you're working with a professional, whether you're working with a young junior that's just coming up through the whole green dot system, it's important to have respect, which we touched on before, and it's important to be able to communicate effectively. And I think those are the four main traits. If you can really focus on those, I think that you can be a great coach. You don't have to be an unbelievable player to be a great coach. I think it helps to be a good player, maybe coaching in the professional ranks, just because not only you're able, I practice with Taylor quite a bit, so you need to be able to hit pretty well, and of course to be able to hit with some of the higher ranked professionals. But at the same time, there's plenty of great coaches that have experiences in education, and they're able to communicate and have the patience and have a good eye for the sport to help all students improve and to show that they care. I think that's also a huge factor and doesn't always happen. So a coach that has the knowledge, has the patience, has the respect, able to communicate, and also really shows the passion and the care of helping students, all of those make a great coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Passion is a key factor. No? You have to be like you are doing right now, to be 24/7. You need to have an extra full, in your pocket. You face like a player, many top players. We are talking about mentality, about mindsets. What do you think the big champions, let's say the Federers, the Nadal, the Djokovic, and sometime in the past, the Sampras, the Courier, the Agassis, which are the difference that they have? Now Taylor is on that position, going forward to be on that level. But why they are different? What do you think that how they behave, how they think?
Yeah, they have a certain expectation and also a belief and confidence in those pressure-packed moments that there's zero self-doubt. And so you see Nadal, Federer, as you mentioned, Agassi, some of the greats from the past. Hopefully Taylor can also be in that conversation, in a few years, hopefully win a Grand Slam. And he's shown even this year in some of those big events in the finals, having the confidence and belief in those moments. And that's what separates, those guys from the rest of the field, Djokovic as well, is having the belief and the confidence to go after shots in those moments and not getting caught up in the situation. So they're still able to keep the mindset more about the process and not so much about the result oriented. And that's easier said than done, of course. It's match point to win a Grand Slam, and your mind starts racing. You start thinking ahead, holding up the trophy, maybe getting the winner's check. How many points am I going to get? But that's what the greats are able to do. They're able to separate the mind and really focus on the targets and playing in the moment and not getting ahead of themselves. And then the more success they have, the more they draw on that in future experiences. They know that they've been successful already and what has worked, and they continue to draw on that, which, just snowballs into success and obviously the legendary status that those players have.
Yeah. It's like they are feeding themselves, no, about with the success, and also they are ready to pay the price, no?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you see it in other sports as well. I mean, it's just, and the greatness they have, it's also from the process that they've created. They know what works when it comes from the preparation, the nutrition, the fitness they do. They've created a successful process, which has led to winning Grand Slams, #1 rankings, and they continue to use that as a base. And then if they need to amend some things or tweak some things here and there, then they can do it, but they know the successful process.
Yeah, which is, I always say that if you are able to create success in tennis, you are able to create in any business, because it's like any leader, no? You know the process, like you say, no?
Exactly. And you see that a lot in tennis, being an individual sport. A lot of the players go on to be successful, in the business world, because you have to have really good self-management, time management, and self-belief, which goes a long way in the business world.
Yeah, and also you touch a very specific point, like discipline. No? To be there, you need a lot of discipline. Like you have it, you have to like a player, but
Yeah.
also like a coach. Like, of course, like in this case Taylor, but anyway, other player, they
Yes.
have the same. No.
Yeah. No, you have to be disciplined in order to be successful, playing, coaching, just in general, and then our schedules are so flexible throughout the year. You have matches, let's say in an ATP finals starting at 9 p.m. So maybe you're getting to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the next day, you have the practice schedule, and then you might play again at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's having the discipline with time management to making sure that you're able to do everything you need to do to prepare. And that goes back to the discipline, whether it's, we talked about the video analysis, setting up the practices, making sure the gym work, the nutrition, everything is perfect in place so that the player can play well and have no stress and just go out there and compete. But it comes from the coach and the team, you had to have discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting. And we are talking about for our audience, how you create a culture, no? Culture of many things, and you micromanagement the culture of the team and creating and bringing more things. Michael, let me ask you, and let's talk a little bit about, because you had incredible success, and we touched a little bit at the beginning of the interview with Taylor this year. He did a wonderful first tournament in Indian Wells, which was a great result. Indian Wells is the 5th tournament in the world. Which are the key factors in terms of the evolution of Taylor? Because we know that he has the potential, he has a very good skills, and he's very competitive. He has a personality, strong personality also. But from your point of view, that's jump from to be a top 20, top 25 player, to be now top 10, to have a good average all the year, to be very competitive against the best players, against the Nadals, against the other ones. How was the key factors of the process?
Yeah, so there were a few major changes and improvements that Taylor did in 2022. So one of the key factors was that he got fitter. He's always had really good hand-eye coordination. And as you mentioned, Fernando, he's an amazing competitor, but that still only gets you so far, especially at the highest levels of the sport. So this past off season in 2021, it wasn't a long off season, but we had about 2 weeks in LA, and we went really hard, really increased the volume in the gym and on the court as well, And that set Taylor up for a really good beginning of 2022, where he made his, fourth round of Australia. And that was the first time he ever made second week of a slam. And we started having more training blocks right before the big events. Mm-hmm. And all those training blocks led to more success. So we had a great week before Australia. We had a great training block right before Indian Wells. So those were key factors. One, he's fitter. Two, he's serving better. He's always had a great first serve, but the second serve has improved a lot. His second serve used to sometimes be only 75, 80 miles an hour, which, is a little bit too weak to get to the higher level. So now he's hitting a second serve much bigger, using more variety. He's really playing more aggressive, which we've really focused on, trying to go after his forehand more. Taylor's almost 6'5". He's a big guy, really long arms. So he needs to enforce his game on his opponents, where in the past, sometimes he played a little too passive. Mm-hmm. He kind of resorted back to playing defensively, especially in pressure moments. So we've really been emphasizing, using the big first serve, really going after his forehand to dictate points. And then we've tried to incorporate more transition as well, trying to finish more points at net. Mm-hmm. And looking to come forward. And, it's still a process, but Taylor's done a much better job this year of finishing some points at net, being more aggressive. And, it needs to continue to be like that, because, when you're top 10, there's more expectation. You have a target on your back. Everybody's gunning for you. So you gotta keep working hard, keep improving, and, keep becoming a more all-around player.
Yeah. And particularly to be fitter, like you say, it show a lot during the year. Even for us, looking at his game, looks much better on the physical part. This was a great improvement, and also how he managed the big moments. Was totally different what happened in the past. No.
Yes, for sure. And the being fitter has allowed him to recover faster. He's been able to play multiple 5-set matches back to back, which mm-hmm. he wasn't able to do before. And then also being fitter gives you more confidence. So having that knowledge and confidence that I can play longer matches, I'm stronger, I'm faster, it allows him to play more aggressive, gives him the belief that he can run down more balls than normal. And also, later on in the deeper stages of matches, he's not getting as tired. So, he can still continue to play his game plan and not, a lot of times you see when players start to get a little more fatigued, they start to get away from how they're supposed to play because, they don't have the energy. So that's also allowed him to play, his game style, deeper into the tougher stages of the matches.
Yeah. Michael, you are a leader, no? And one of the key, and you did mention on the episode about that, it's very important for coaches to manage the communication skills, the social skills that you have to develop, and how you are able also to negotiate, to negotiate timing process, keywords, these kind of things. How you manage let's say, the communication process?
Yeah, you are a leader. You have the direct communication with the players. So it's important to be strong, not physically, but strong as in just the perception of what you say, how you act, how you walk around and construct yourself, throughout the day, because the player sees that. It's kind of like the aura, the energy that you exude. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be a leader, you need to be positive, you need to have good energy. You need to be forceful, but forceful in a way that you still come across as understanding. And you need to be able to communicate effectively. So having all those traits, helps the players see that, and also gives players confidence knowing that, the coach is leading and they know, what they're doing, their
Yeah,
confidence,
yeah,
they're managing all the roles, and, they're in a good place, and making it easier for the player because everything's organized.
yeah, absolutely. And it's very particular because we need to prepare the next generation of coaches in communication, no? Many times we didn't speak too much about it. And you did mention when you were a player, key coaches like Higueras or Ronnie Harmon, they were very good ones also in communication. And how are the key factors like a coach to be a good or great communicator?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I learned from then. And everyone has different communication process. Everyone has a different philosophy. So, I take bits and pieces from everyone, and then, I have my own empathetic way because, I from playing also many years, I understand the difficulties in communication, knowing the right timing. A player loses a really tough match, you probably don't want to start talking about the match right away. It also depends on the player. Everyone's unique in their own right. Some players like to talk about things right away, but understanding different timings of when you communicate, what to communicate, how you communicate. It's so imperative that you understand that process, and you get that through also experiences, coaching other players, learning through all the different personalities. There's different egos involved, so you have to be patient, and you have to know the player, to get through and understand everything, and continue to communicate. And sometimes it's being transparent. Sometimes the player is not always going to like what you have to say, but it's important that you say it, because that's how they become a better player and a better person.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, we know that we can talk by hours because we love tennis, and let me give you some more question, and that's it. What do you think about the new rules, the new rule about the ATP, which allow to have coaching on court?
I think it's great. It doesn't change so much what Taylor and I do, because we always communicate quite a bit when he's playing. Not that we were doing that before, obviously that's illegal, but Taylor likes to talk quite a bit to the box, usually just kind of explaining what's going on. But I think it's fair. I know there were some coaches before that were kind of getting in trouble for coaching a little bit too much before the rule was put in effect. But I like it, because I think there's always going to be a balance of what to say, when to say it. And, coaches can also say too much, during the match, and then the player is not going to be able to think for themselves, because at the end of the day, whatever I say, it doesn't mean it's going to be right, but it also, even if it is right, the player still has to be able to perform and act. So
it's like a consultant, no?
Exactly. So it's not like you can say, oh, serve to the backhand here, and then all of a sudden he hits a perfect serve to the backhand that's an ace. Obviously it's not that easy. So, I'm all for it. You look at the other sports, there's always coaching involved. So, why not have tennis? I think it's great for the fans as well, for the media. And, I think it's important that they incorporated that rule. And I think it will stay for next year.
Yeah, definitely. Because also it's bringing transparency for our game, because we know that coaching already exists for decades, in some ways. But also I think it's bringing visibility for coaches, which is good because it's bringing recognition. But then also as a key factor, like I say, always the player is taking the decision. Michael, how many times you say something and the player is doing the opposite?
Right, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to the player. It definitely helps to give him some suggestions or insight, or even affirmation, maybe of like, oh, should I hit the backhand down the line? You're like, yes, use it. But they have to be able to execute it.
Yeah, exactly. Which are the future challenges? Let me give you a couple more questions. the future challenge for next year? Because right now you are with Taylor in the top 10, very competitive. The pressure is changing right now, and the expectation also. Not only the expectation about your team, also the expectation around him. What do you think is the new challenges for the future?
No, for sure. The challenges are going to be, as you said, managing the expectation. So now you finish the year number 9 in the world. You have 3 titles from last year, quarterfinals of Wimbledon, of a slam. So it's managing the pressure, managing the expectation, also managing the scheduling, which is tricky because, with being top 10, there's more opportunities, more exhibitions, more tournaments that have appearance fees. So you really got to make sure that you're maximizing the tournaments that you're playing. And then, we talked about it a little bit before, you have a little more of a target on your back because you're top 10. So the other players have less pressure playing you because they look at you as a higher ranked player, and there's more motivation and more incentive for them to come out and give 100%, which they usually are, but there's that little extra motivation to beat you being top 10. So you got to put the hard work in, and you got to keep working hard and if not harder, and be smart with the training, with the preparation, with the scheduling, and also making sure that the mindset doesn't waver, continuing to have the goals and set new goals, which, for Taylor is top 5, and, going deeper into some of the Grand Slams. I'd love to see him, playing for a Grand Slam title in the next year or two. So, it's having new goals and being able to reach those new goals. You got to work even harder than what you've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to me that you, like a coach, but also Taylor, he has the personality to go for the glory of the game, not only for the money or for the recognition. No, it seems to me from the outside, it looks like this is a player who wants glory, like you are doing also like a coach, no?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor is a big match player. He loves playing center court in front of 20,000 people, wants to play the best players, and that's it's not always something you can teach. Yeah. You can talk to your students and try to make them really love the atmosphere, and that's, I used to love that too, obviously in a different way. I wasn't ranked as high as Taylor, but I loved playing on center court, and I know I'm playing the best player in the world because I felt like that's why I'm playing tennis. That's why I'm a professional athlete. I'm here to entertain and play the best I can and show all the fans, how good you are. And Taylor does that. He loves the big matches, and that's why he's done so well in some of the tournaments that are actually with higher ranked opponents, because there's less expectation on himself, and he can just go out and play his aggressive style and compete. So, and that's also one of the challenges going into next year, because he's going to be the favorite at a lot of these tournaments and everyone else is the underdog. So it's really, kind of tricking the mindset, which we talk about a lot. Nadal is amazing at that. If you watch his interviews, he's always giving his opponents really high praise, and that takes a little bit of pressure off of him, even though, deep down, of course, he expects to win every match when Rafa walks on court, and same with Taylor. So it's, making sure that you respect every one of your opponents, but still having the confidence and belief when you step on court that you're going to win every match.
Absolutely. Very good insight, Michael. Last question. You spent a lot of years like a player and also now like a coach, full commitment, a lot of responsibilities, and also a lot of energy put in the project. Are you enjoying your journey in tennis?
No, I love it. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I'm fortunate that my wife travels with me. So, and she loves tennis too. So we're traveling the world 35 weeks and, doing what I love at the professional tennis tournaments. And when I'm not coaching on tour, then I coach back in Houston privately. So it's just, I have a huge passion for tennis and for helping people. And I just continue to try to learn as much as possible and meet new people and talk to you, Fernando. So it's great. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to be in the episode of the Tennis Talk Coaches Voices. It was a great one. Thank you for all your insight, but more than that, thank you for all the things that you are doing for tennis.
Thank you, Fernando. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I am Alberto Castellani, President of GPTCA, Global Professional Tennis Coach Association. Learn from the best ATP coaches in the world. I hope that at the end of this course you will learn a lot of things. I hope that I will see you on the circuit with your player. This is the goal.